All right, so in-state tuition might be going up soon at UNC and NC State. A 3% increase is on the table right now at both schools this week, which is the most that they can do. It's the most allowed under state law, no more than that. And if these proposals do go through, we should note, won't apply to current students. So what you pay isn't going to change. The plan would go into effect, though, for new kids incoming the 2026 freshman class and beyond. And this is a pretty big deal, especially since UNC has not raised tuition since 2017, something that they mention all the time when discussing their affordability. A 3% tuition increase at NC State is about $270 per year. At UNC, it's about $211 per year, which is about as much as a Netflix subscription. No ads, obviously. Seems doable when you think of it that way, but you should remember the cost of college is much more than just tuition. There are a lot of those fees, lots and lots of fees. And this proposal to increase tuition also comes with increases to those fees. So this is the plan here for UNC. We haven't seen one for NC State yet, so let's stick with the Tar Heels. A 2% increase in general fees, then a 4% increase to meal plans, a 7% increase to housing, and individually they are all pretty small. You'd have to admit that, but they teach math there and things add up. If you total all of those proposed increases at UNC, you're looking at about $1,115 per year. We did the math. That's actually a little cheaper than getting all of the ad-free subscriptions to Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Apple TV, HBO, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. You know, some people out there do have all of those. You know, it kind of feels like its own story. It's a topic for another day. A couple months ago, we did a big in-depth story about the cost of college, right? How tuition compares to the cost of owning a home, for instance, and the debt that students take on to get that 4-year degree, even at a state institution like UNC or NC State. And you can find that on WRAL's YouTube page. But it is important, I think, to put these numbers into perspective. For example, UNC says that the average price increase to its meal plan is a couple percentage, 4%, right? That is the equivalent to 53 cents per meal. And if you look at the in-state tuition in our schools compared to other schools around the country, UNC specifically would still be way lower than places like Georgia Tech, Wisconsin, Texas, Washington, UCLA, and Virginia. That said, none of this is for certain. Right? The proposal isn't a slam dunk. It's not a done deal. The Board of Trustees isn't exactly in perfect lockstep with one another when it comes to this. A few members actually insist that the in-state tuition should not go up at all. Marty Kotis has said this, quote, "Our responsibility is to keep in-state tuition flat while adjusting non-resident rates." Basically, he's saying, look, jack up the price for the out-of-state students. Leave the in-state costs the same. And it kind of does make sense when you listen to the argument that he makes. Many in-state students at UNC have lived in North Carolina, some of them for their whole lives, but for years and years. And their families have been paying taxes for years and years to help to fund the school system here. Out-of-state students and their families have not paid into that system. This principle has already been in practice for years. You know, while in-state tuition has stayed flat since 2017, that out-of-state tuition has not. It has climbed year to year to year. In 2017, out-of-state students paid nearly $32,000 a year for tuition alone at UNC. Today, that number is $43,000. And under the proposal in front of the board, it would go up again, rising it to $47,000 a year. So forget streaming services. That's as much as a brand new, like, Audi A5. Sounds expensive. It does. And you might be thinking, Dan, out-of-state families are going to catch on to this, right? They're going to just stop applying to UNC if it gets that expensive. That is a lot of money. But if you check out the numbers, over the past 5 years, applications at UNC have gone up every single year from those out-of-state kids, from 42,000 in 2019 to 66,000 in 2024. Students from all over the country, from all over the world in some cases, want to come to UNC. U.S. News and World Report ranked it 4th for the top public school and number 1 for best value among public schools. That's pretty good. But all that said, $28,000 a year for a 4-year degree for those in-state students, it's a lot of money. And again, it's not just tuition that they have to pay. We got the housing, the food, the books, and everything else that you need that's not incorporated in that number. And if your kids are still many, many years away from going off to college, like mine are, like many of yours might be, there's a pretty good chance the number is going to be higher when it comes time for them to enter school. You don't know how much financial aid they're going to get. You don't know how many scholarships or which scholarships they might qualify for. And you don't know how many more of these little 3%, 4%, 5% increases are going to happen and pile up in the years ahead. I know this makes me a little anxious sometimes, but I'm wondering how you feel about the whole thing when it comes to the cost of college. I want to hear your thoughts, as we like to do here at 7 o'clock. I want to hear your stories about this. What has it been like getting your family prepared to afford college? Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. How are you planning for your family? Can we help each other out here? I'm sure there's some good ideas out there. What part of this equation do you want to know more about? Tell me what is on your mind, and we will go in depth.